Most engineers wait 6 to 12 months hoping to be noticed while the new hire is getting the promotions that they've always wanted. Now, for those who don't know me, my name is Cameron. I'm a 23-year-old ex Apple, ex Amazon senior engineer. And in this video, I'm going to be breaking down to you the step by step framework that you need to implement in order to land that promotion that you've been wanting for a while now. Now, the first thing that we need to understand is being promotion ready means something different to everybody. It means something different to me, to you, to your manager. Now, being promotion ready, you may feel that it's completing the tasks, getting along well with your manager. He's not asking for updates because you're giving to them naturally over time. And you can expect a promotion between 6 to 12 months or whenever the next promo cycle is. But in reality, your manager has a completely different concept and definition of what promotion ready actually means. Now, promotions aren't just based on the work itself. It's based on a few different factors. It's based on scope, impact, and visibility. Now, the scope is important because if the scope is not defined, we can go off in various different directions and not actually deliver what we set out to deliver. If there's no impact there and it's not substantial, significant value that the company is getting out of it, or at least the team, then it's not going to hold any significant weight. And if the visibility isn't there, you're not going to have your name known by leadership, by people who are above your manager. You're not going to have that level of visibility for, let's say, for example, the CISO to be like, oh, yeah, it's Cameron. I know him. Yeah, he's worked on this big project and they understand what you've done, the work that you've put into it as well. So that's why you need scope, impact, and visibility, not just the effort alone. Now, you may be putting in the effort already. Right now, you're putting in the effort, maybe even some overtime there as well to get the project completed. But in reality, if you're not showcasing it within a confined scope, with the level of impact there as well, and also the level of visibility, then we're not really going to be getting the promotions that we want because that is what the manager actually looks for. Now, they may not tell you this. It depends on your manager. Some are more open than others, but that is specifically what is required. But how do we actually go out and do that? Well, we want to first sit down in a one-to-one with our manager and we want to articulate what is actually required for us to get that promotion. So your manager may not actually know that you want a promotion. So the first thing that we need to do is sit down with them in a one-to-one and say, I would like a promotion. And you say this in a very different way. I'm just kind of paraphrasing here, but you say that you would like a promotion and then you ask how you can actually get that. Now, you want to be very specific in terms of the promotion that you're asking for. If you're entry level or mid level, you can't be asking for like principal or staff straight away. You, of course, have to climb the ladder like everybody else, but you can make pretty logical leaps depending on where you're currently at, providing we have everything in order, right? This step by step framework that will be implemented by yourself. Now, we want to sit down with our manager and we want to understand a few different points. We want to first let him be aware or her be aware that we actually want the promotion and that we are willing to actually go out and achieve it, obtain it by doing anything in our powers to be able to do so. And we want to also make sure that we get some very hard, concrete, quantitative requirements with regards to what we actually do need to deliver to be able to obtain that promotion. So we don't want anything to say, oh, just perform well or do the operational tasks or, just make sure you have the right impact. We need actual quantifiable results there, right? Quantifiable requirements, essentially. So we need to say, like, for example, you deliver two big projects of this large scope with this specific amount of visibility. And we want to make sure that is defined in some sort of metrics or way like that. Now, the reason why we do that is because they can't then move the goalposts. They can't then say, oh, well, yeah, you did get good visibility from leadership, but we was kind of expecting a bit more than usual. So unfortunately, you didn't kind of meet the requirements for this promotion, but we can reassess this next promotion cycle if you continue to do what you're currently doing. And then it's just a continuous loop of never actually getting the promotion. So we want to make sure that we do have quantitative requirements when it comes to this. So we want to make sure that we are actually getting all of the information needed to know that we are actually performing as we should for the promotion there. Now, if we don't get that, then of course we're going to be kind of in the dark, not knowing if we're actually doing well at all, regardless of whatever the manager says at the time. When it comes to promotion cycle, that's a different conversation to be had. So we want to make sure that we have basically all of the ducks in a row. We want to make sure that we are actually doing everything in our power to guarantee ourselves that promotion. And that's step number one. Step number one is actually having that open communication with your manager to be able to know what is required. Now, after that meeting, The first thing you want to do is create a promo doc, a promotion document, specifically with regards to what was discussed, the requirements, and then send it to your manager in, let's say, like an email, so then he can then verify it. Now, the reason why we do this is because anything can be said on meetings. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be dishonest, but we just want to make sure that we do leave a paper trail with regards to what we're focusing on. And one of the best ways of doing that is doing it in a promotion document, summarizing essentially what you've went through in the meeting, and then sending it off to your manager so then they can actually say, yep, that's exactly what we discussed, something like that, as a reply. And then, of course, you can always go back to that email as and when you need to, depending on the situations that you're in as well. And that's going to be making sure that everyone's just kind of, on the same page. They understand exactly what is required. Your manager knows where you want to go to. You know exactly what your manager wants from you, so you can be able to get there. So essentially, everything's going to be in order. Now, one of the key insights with this as well, and this is a bit of additional advice, but you don't get promoted into a role and then start acting like the responsibilities that you have in that role. So what I mean by that is, if you're mid-level right now, you don't go and get promotion to senior and then start acting like a senior. You have to basically start mimicking how a senior will act as a mid-level engineer. And then from there, you then get the promotion into senior because it's more closely aligned with your responsibilities and how you're operating now. So that's something to be mindful of. You want to ideally adopt the responsibilities of the layer up from you, or ideally wherever you want the promotion to be. And then from there, what you can then do is, of course, feed that into the promotional loop. So then you can, of course, go ahead and get that promotion in the end. Now, you also want to make sure that when you are working on these projects that you're doing for your manager, for the promotion specifically, you want to make sure that you are actually documenting everything. You want to track the impact and the results, and pretty much like a case study, essentially, right? So you want to be tracking. You can do this in a promotional doc. You can use the same one. You can do a different one. It's up to you. But we want to capture the problem statement. So what your manager actually wanted from us to, the problems to solve, the actions that we took to be able to actually achieve the solution, the full solution, and also the measurable impact there as well. Now, the impact is going to depend widely on the niche that you're in. For myself, I'm in cybersecurity. So I'm going to be talking about the level of impact it has from a security standpoint and also from a risk standpoint. So if you're in software engineering, you'll be talking more about the impact than the risk, but maybe it'll be a mixture of the two. But because cybersecurity is very risk heavy, of course, that will be something that I would discuss. So you need to understand what you would actually discuss and what you actually track on as well. But the number one key thing you want to do here is track on the impact, because the impact is what matters the most. And you want to look at other adjacent areas as well. For example, cyber and risk that you could also bring up as well that leadership would ideally want to see as well. Now, the reason for this is because we want to make sure that we have a clear paper trail of all of our progress from start to finish, from starting the project, getting the requirements that are quantitative, to actually completing the project and actually having the full solution that is ready to go, maybe even to be pushed into production as well. So we want to make sure that we have all of that as well. So we can always go back, look at the notes if we ever do need to, or if anybody needs those notes for themselves as well. Now, we essentially want to reverse engineer our target role. We want to reverse engineer where the promo is that we want to get to. So if we're mid-level right now, we want to go to senior, then that's something we do need to map out. If we want to go from senior to staff or distinguished or principal engineer, then that's something we also have to map out there as well. So we want to make sure that we are looking at the company organization, so the org chart, and we want to basically see how everything interlinks, right? What teams communicate with what cross-functional areas do we have between different teams, who is above who's above your manager, who's above your manager's manager, and where the actual position is essentially in the org chart that you want to aim for. Now, you want to identify about 3 to 5 gaps between you and that level. So another way of looking at it is, what are they currently doing in the ideal, kind of promo or role level that you want to be at? What are they currently doing? 3 to 5 things that they're doing that you're currently not doing. And how can you implement those 3 to 5 things to close that gap to get yourself closer to that position? Now, this is something that you won't really discuss with your manager. This is something that you'll just naturally adopt over time, because this will be showing proactive nature to be able to actually fit in with that role in that position, right? Because although you may on paper look like you would do well there, being in the role itself is going to be very different. So we want to make sure that we do actually understand what is required of us in that role and the 3 to 5 gaps between us right now and the actual ideal level that we wish to get to as well. And the easier we actually have in terms of that clear criteria or that clear vision of what that looks like for us, the even better it's going to be to actually be able to obtain it as well. Now, we want to make sure that we increase, as I mentioned before, we've got scope, impact, and visibility. Visibility is a very important aspect. With zero visibility or very minimal, let's say in your team only, between you, the other engineers, and your manager, it's most likely not going to be enough to get that promo. We want to increase the visibility outside of our current team. And there's a few different ways of doing that and a few different kind of areas to do it as well. So the few different areas is that we can have a cross-functional